Sorry about the wait. Sir, we'll start in another few minutes. Let's.
No problem.
Good evening. Just give me a minute. I'll share the circular again. Yes, sir. Another 2 minutes. Let's start.
Problem.
Yes, sir.
I'm waiting.
6:34. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's start at 6:34. Subramanya,
Yes, ma'am.
all good?
Yeah, it's all good. We just need to wait for a few minutes because students are yet to join.
Good evening, sir.
Evening. We all set, I think so. Let's see how it goes.
Yes, sir. Yes. Ashwini, are you there?
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Another minute, madam. Just a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
Yes, Subramania.
Hope we are good to start.
Yes, Annie, please start.
Yeah. Very good evening to everyone. We had a very strong start for the day with a remarkable session from Jangam Shetty sir. As you know, the media is booming up all over the city, all over the place. We are able to celebrate this wonderful day with a lot of elegant speeches, elegant events across going on. And we had started it with the blast of possibilities. And we are very happy that we Bangalore section is able to organize this event and has made a huge remark with the life of students and the faculties who have been a part of it. So as we know, innovation, compassion, and extreme efforts, I take name as an engineer. It's the day celebrated as remember the human intelligence and societal offering through his own way. Today we are celebrating the 162nd birth anniversary of Sri Saram Vishraya. We are most delighted to have one of the awaited session, to be honest, at a fireside chat with Professor Lawrence Jenkins. As we know, with a lot of community people join us in everybody talks about having sessions, everybody talks about doing some speeches and etc. But we thought, why can't we do something which is more relevant to the right now position of the scene? And that's how this fireside chat has been arranged. The insight of fireside chat is all about communicating and interacting with more compassion, more ideology towards the possibilities. And we just click on the starting of the session. Now I request the Bangalore section chair, our dearest ma'am, Deepa ma'am, to give her welcome address for this order's occasion.
Thank you, Subramania. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much for that nice starting. And I'm here to welcome the gathering. Happy Engineers Day. And today, second in the series regarding the celebration of 162nd birth anniversary of Sir MV. We have with us Professor Lawrence Jenkins. He is the chair of Life Members Affinity Group of IEEE Bangalore section, past chair of Bangalore section. He is my senior, and he's a professor, formerly professor of IASA. I met Jenkins sir in the year 2003, if I'm right, at IASC, and I had gone to request him regarding the registration fee of HPC 2003, which happened in Leela Palace. And at that time, I felt that the registration fee is little high for me. So I requested sir at that moment, and my first paper of my PhD was published in Sir's conference HPC 2003, where I met Nawate directly, who wrote database management systems. He went through my work and he asked so many questions, and I was so nervous. Thank you, sir, for accepting my paper nearly 20 years back. Now I have more than 200 papers, and that was a humble beginning in that year. Thank you so much. And this particular event is managed in collaboration with Women in Engineering Bangalore section, IEEE Bangalore section, IEEE Educational Activities, and IEEE Life members. I'm very happy that we are starting the collaboration with Life members, and let us conduct more events under this group. Thank you once again, sir. We would like to hear to you and welcome all the participants. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. It was an amazing thing. We are also this whole session altogether is something very close to our hearts because this is a kind of family moment for all of us. So we are very warmly welcome you also for the session, ma'am. Now I would request Miss Manasa KJ to just give her thoughts on the engineering day. I guess you're not connected to the.
She is. Give her a minute.
Yeah.
Manasa, probably it's your earphone. Yeah. So,
Can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Sorry, there was some network issues. To offer real service, you must add something which cannot be bought or measured with the money. These were the words of the one of the greatest engineers India has ever seen, Sir M. Visvesvaraya, whose birthday is observed as the Engineers' Day all over India on 15th of September. An engineer uses science, technology, and the math to solve the problems. We can see engineering everywhere in the world around us. Improving the ways we work, travel, communicate, stay healthy, and entertain in entertaining fields also. There is a sense of pride and well-being that all engineers feel after having completed a difficult project successfully. It is a life-rewarding career, creating the designing, producing, and also useful products and services for the others. I wish all the engineers over here a very happy Engineers Day. Thank you.
Thank you for those information, Ms. Manasa. So as we're going ahead, let us start the moment, the fireside chat. Now I request the students from SIT Tumakuru, VCT
Subramanian,
Puttur.
I would like to
Yeah,
formally, welcome Lawrence sir
one.
by
Yes.
introducing him to the audience, if you do not mind.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, ma'am.
yes. So, well, I deem it a pleasure, first of all, to welcome Sir to this particular platform and on the auspicious day of Engineers Day as well. So, welcome, Sir. So, thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
yes.
solemn wishes to all of you here on the Engineers Day. It's a day of observance of birthday of Sir M. Visvesvaraya, as Manasa rightly pointed out, a great engineer who did a lot of contributions to the country, and it was not limited to his presidency of the then Mysore state. So, anyways, Professor Lawrence Jenkins received his BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering from the IIT Madras, and his MS and PhD degrees in Electrical Engineering from the University of Notre Dame, USA. After serving for 3 years as the PSC College of Technology, Coimbatore, PSG College of Technology at Coimbatore, Sir joined the Department of Electrical Engineering at the Indian Institute of Science in 1979. His service at IISc included 6 years as chair of his department. He was the organizing chair of GATE in 2008 and has chaired the curriculum committee of IISc for 3 years. While at IISc, he had visiting appointments at Purdue University and the National University of Singapore. Professor Jenkins has been active in the IEEE section of IEEE for many years. He has served as student counselor, secretary, vice chair, and chair. He was awarded the IEEE Millennium Medal of the IEEE MGA in 2001. Currently, he is the chair of Life Members Affinity Group of the Bangalore section. He is a director of the Global IEEE Institute of Engineers, Bangalore. And after retirement, Professor Jenkins remains technically active. He continues to review papers for journals. His areas of research have included sensor networks, real-time systems, integration of renewables in the grid, and the application of optimization techniques to power problems. So without much ado, it's over to you, Subramanya and Professor Jenkins.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. You have given us the insight on the importance, and I would just make this mark to everyone that if you are an IEEE member, if you want to know to which extremity you can go, and we have a live example in front of us. Thank you for that wonderful introduction about that. So now we quickly just start up with our question and answer sessions. Now I request Divyashree from VCET Puttur to ask her question towards her. Divyashree?
You need to unmute yourself, Divya. We cannot do it for you.
Yeah, it's fine by the time she could come up again. I would like to ask one question to you, sir. Uh, how can a volunteer bring difference to the IEEE community? Or what is your view on students leading the IEEE forward in the upcoming future times?
Well, I think every organization needs volunteers. Without volunteers, we cannot really do anything. And let's look at why people volunteer. The right reason, a good reason is that you want to get ahead in your career. Because having IEEE on in your biodata saying you took part in various activities, you held a post, these type of things are always an encouragement. People like it. But I've sat at interviews where a student will bring about 34 or 46 certificates, and everything was only a participation certificate. Now, that really doesn't cut any ice. Be a volunteer, you have to be an active volunteer. You have to really contribute stuff. And there again, I suggest to the volunteer, naturally, you have your self interest at heart. Nobody does anything purely out of charity. But always look to the other side. If a student asks you for help or you need to help the chair of the section of the student branch to organize the activity, do your best at it. Make sure you take on responsibilities when asked, deliver them with pride and to the best of your ability. Because just going through the motions does not cut any ice. And the next thing you have to bear in mind is don't try to push yourself forwards. Typically you go to a meeting and some guy's raising his hand gently, it's a guy asking all sorts of questions. That only exposes you. Sit and watch first. Be ready to help. Learn your way around. Believe me, if you carry out your first responsibility well, quietly in the background, not making a noise about it, the people who asked you to do the job will remember it. Next time they have a bigger job, they'll offer it to you. Some guy told me it's very easy to get into IEEE. It's very, very hard to get out of it. Believe me, that's true. I started in 83 became a student advisor. That time it was a very simple organization, just one student branch at IASC. So I covered the entire group of students in Karnataka. I thought that's it. Next thing, Professor Kincha became the chairman. After he becomes the secretary. And I moved up the hierarchy. I stayed there for about 15 years totally, including being section chair, past chair. Then after that, I stayed at a more low profile. But then again, I'm back. I'm handling the life members group, affinity group. So it's very true. And I never really sought higher office. It always came to me. I know things have changed since then, but don't be in a hurry to move up the ladder. You'll get your chance. And the leadership of the branch have their own responsibilities. whether it's a student branch or whether it's the section chairs, remember that everybody there is a volunteer. And volunteers are serving because they're interested, because they want to work, and because they feel it's worthwhile to do it. And more important, they like to be part of your team. So your job is to make absolutely sure that they feel in place and that they want to continue. And there, it's very important to bear in mind that you can't order people around. I've even seen section chairs demanding that people do certain tasks, talking rudely to them if they don't. But that works when you're the employer and somebody's your employee, or somebody's a professor and you are a student. So we shouldn't shout, sometimes we do. It's different when somebody is there voluntarily and can quit at any time. It gets to be a very lonely job and a very hard job if nobody is willing to work with you. The second thing that I have to advise the leadership is mainly have a mix in a student branch group. Unlike the section or society chapter where the people will stay for a long time, a student branch by definition has people graduating. And they graduate in 4 years unless something terrible happens. So first year they get in, they just become members of IEEE if you do it right, or maybe they join in second year. Second year they might join begin to offer some help. The third year when they are in pre-final, they might become an office bearer like the secretary or treasurer. Fourth year, you expect them to one of them to become the chair. So bear in mind, you should have a profile of your student branch with few seniors directing operations. Their juniors must be there at other levels. If I see a student branch with a group of seniors doing the whole thing, I'm worried about how it will survive. And one last thing, I heard that from a former region 10 director from Hong Kong, way back. He said, please don't go around looking like the whole world is on your shoulders. Look like you're enjoying the job, and then you'll be able to find a replacement when your time is up. I found at all levels, because I look like I'm enjoying myself, there was never a shortage of somebody willing to take my place. In fact, there was competition. You know you're redundant, but you also feel good about it. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this, sir. Now I request Ms. Divyashree from VCET Putturu to ask a question.
Good evening, sir. I'm Divyashree. Yes, I'm the student chair of IEEE VCT student branch. So here is a question. You have been the chair of IEEE Bangalore section twice. What's the one change you wish to see in IEEE activities?
Well, one change is hard to say. The whole operation of IEEE has changed so much since my day. So it's hardly any comparison is available. When I was there was just one student branch at IISc, as I mentioned. During my term in office, the SJCE branch started in Mysore. On the other side, there were, well, I think 2 section society chapters. That was it. Our membership was a few hundreds. One side of it was there was not much available, and the section had to drive virtually everything, section XCOM. On the other hand, it was a very cozy relationship. We knew almost all the higher grade members. A lot of the student activists kept in touch with me as student advisor. And it was easy to retain students. Now our problem is size. Size is good because you have resources. And the IEEE Bangalore section has lots of money and facilities and people to work. On the other hand, the problem that arises is you don't have the ability to retain members. Typically, students are very enthusiastic in the student branches. Once they graduate, they try to keep things up for a little while. But when they come to the section meetings, they find they're isolated. They don't know anybody. All these old guys are running things and they feel out of place. So some of them try to remain as graduate members, but I think the money puts them off a bit. And secondly, they're not getting much out of it. they don't feel at home. So I think one thing the Bangalore section has to do is to work on the young members group, the affinity group. Because otherwise, at one time known as graduates of the last decade, the name changes took place. Because retaining them is the key to having long-term involvement. But on the other hand, it starts earlier. You need student members to feel at home when they come up later. And there are a number of ways to do this. One way is to get this section society chapters active in these members. So there, what I would like as change number one is to ask the society chapters to have one or two members solely devoted on their committees, solely devoted to acting with the student branches and keeping them involved. Because that's from where your chapter society chapter members will come in the future. And maybe the person put in charge, of course, all our people are busy. They could get a small informal group of people around them to help. Maybe a couple of student counselors, maybe a couple of younger people from the society chapter who will be able to spend some time over there. So that's change I would like to see. And of course, certainly the chapters, the section needs to run more activities for students. They have a student paper contest. Maybe one or two more at a more decentralized level might help. And students always accept for help with projects. That cannot happen on a large scale because nobody who is an active member of IEEE has the time to devote to student projects. But they can help them by offering some amounts of activities with regard to projects, like again a project presentation prizes and some encouragement of that nature. Maybe a hackathon could be run for the students to get involved. Beyond that, I think the student branches have got to make some efforts to visit some of the industries, interact with members of IEEE that way. And if you have the right contacts within the section, these things can be easily arranged. So you should think of these possibilities as well.
Yeah, thank you, Divishri, and thank you, sir, for this wonderful answer. Now I would request Chaitra from Canara Engineering College. I'm very sorry. I now I'd request Ramya from KLS JIT to ask a question.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes.
This is Rashmi. I am the WI chair of KLSGIT Belgavi. It's a great opportunity connecting with you, sir. I would
Thank
like
you.
to know your opinion regarding self-sufficiency, or what we know now as Atmanirbhar Bharat for India. Given the boom in telecom, manufacturing, electronics, etc., how can we leverage from the current times?
Well, rather than look specifically at any industry to start with, I think we have to look at it from a general perspective. First of all, I think everybody wants us to be, self-sufficient country. We got our freedom from the British 75 years ago. Previous generations fought so hard. It was before our time, but we've heard a lot about it. We appreciate what they did. And they gave us not just a free country, free from foreign rule. They gave us a constitution which guaranteed freedom of the individual, freedom to associate, the freedom to move, all our freedoms. But having all these freedoms on paper does not mean a thing if you are still enslaved as an individual. Because of economic needs, or a country that's enslaved to other countries. Now, if you read up old stuff, and we lived that time from the 1950s to about the 1980s, we were a basket case. I don't know me that rudely, but we did not have finances. We expected World Bank aid for everything. United Nations assistance. The British, our former masters, were giving us money. We looked for American aid to tide us through a famine in the 60s. In the early 70s, we even were short of money. We had to get the International Monetary Fund to bail us out. Luckily, those days are behind us. A lot of people worked very hard to get us out of that trap. And we should work very hard to continue to be free and to grow. We are a major country. I saw our per capita is now going to overtake the British, or they've just overtaken. But it's not per capita, it's the net GDP. The per capita GDP will have about 35 countries between us and Britain. So obviously, we have to work on it. And the government has made nice signs. We're very grateful that they've drawn attention to all of us, that we as a nation have got to work hard, pull us out of this dependence on foreigners, of being unable to sustain ourselves economically. Certainly, if we are having so much of starvation deaths even today, if we can't afford proper food, clothing, and shelter for a lot of our people, our healthcare is falling behind. Economics is the only way that gets us out of it. Self-sufficiency is the way. But I don't like to look at it as self-sufficient. Like to look at us as being interdependent on other countries. But we must depend on them to a lesser extent that they depend on us, or at most, but to an equal extent. What does that take? I do not think that self-sufficiency should be looked upon as export independence, as imports, as export substitution. Import substitution. We cannot do that. We remember, those of us who are old enough who lived through the 60s and 70s would remember what that cost us. There were just 3 brands of car on the road, all from very old design. Television sets just about came in, and they were rather pathetic. We could not afford a lot of things. Each time an Indian went abroad on a visit, his sole interest was on bringing back foreign goods. That was not the way to live. We had a telephone system that was antiquated. We used mechanical switches only because ITI could manufacture them. We thought our industries were good, but only because they were not facing competition. So to me, import substitution is not the way to go. Recently, there have been very disturbing signs of protectionism in various forms. Raising of tariffs for imports make it difficult for you to bring in goods into the country. And we look like we're heading to where we were many years ago. And that's not the way that we should be going. Our industry should be able to compete freely with other countries. And if you look upon it, if you do not allow free competition for your industries and you protect them, you end up with a number of bad effects. One is prices remain high because people have to buy just what's available. It becomes cost rather than competitive prices. The quality is not good. You're working with second-rate materials. I remember HMT was held up to us as a manufacturer of the best machinery to manufacture. It also, the HMT watches were considered prized possessions, and they were good. But the prices were high, they were in limited supply, and in some ways, they couldn't compete with the best that was available. Our industries was trying to manufacture precision goods with less quality available to them than other people had. And that was not a good way to compete. So once we lifted imports and allowed free imports, we found a lot of our industries collapsed. Some of them no longer exist. Others are a mere shadow of their former selves. So what is the way forward? How do we survive with so much dependence on foreign goods? Well, the answer is short. We have to manufacture in India. But the government cannot do the manufacturing. That route was tried. Government does not have the resources or the manpower to manage these industries, and it does not work. So we need the private sector in a large way. Of course, the multinationals need to come in, continue to come in. But our local industries have done pretty well. We have some world-class industries here. They have to continue to compete. And they have the ability, I do believe. But we must make them compete on equal terms. We'll continue to struggle. And now let's look at specific industries. Our pride and joy has been the software industry. It's remained stuck at a particular level. We are trusted the world over to produce enterprise software, things that are like back office software for various companies, for payroll, inventory control, personnel development, that type of stuff. A lot of our local, our government institutions like the Election Commission, the various types of, like our income tax departments, all of them are using Indian products, Indian software, very good. But we don't have the commercial software. Microsoft is near that, but they do produce a range of software. So do Adobe, you name them, all these other big companies. We don't have major software producers. We are looking at low value, leveraging our low costs. We have to go beyond that. That's useful, but not the only story. VLSI fab facilities are very costly. We need to have some of them, but most of the world gets their stuff done in Taiwan and places like that. We do have a lot of good VLSI designers. We've got to leverage their abilities. And telecom. Telecom, we've managed to make large strides in manufacturing, but we still have way to go. And here, our local developers have to be involved in the standards organization like IEEE and the others, because unless you get your practices standard as part of the standards, you'll not be able to sell internationally, and that's where the business is. Hence, we have tried to have first import like aircraft or whatever, and then develop our own. But our own manufacturing facilities are limited in the public sector. We need the private sector involvement. And there, when you get the private sector involved, not only must they have a chance to have the current order, they must be able to look for future orders. So sustainability there is very, very important for them. If it's a one-off deal, they cannot really afford to invest in money to meet this demand. And manufacturing, that is our major problem. We struggle in making precision goods at good price and with guaranteed quality. Unless we are power in manufacturing, we can't go very well with software and even electronics products. We have to manufacture on a large scale and to be able to sell. Now, we have certain advantages. One is we have a local market that is large, but we still have to compete the international market as well. And for that, we require our standards of manufacturing. All products go up, and we can do it. Now, the government has a hand to play, and a big hand to play. One thing the government has to do is to be consistent. Tax policies must remain pretty consistent for at least over a 5-year period. Retrospective tax, which they promised not to do again, has had a very negative effect on companies coming into the country and local companies manufacturing. The rules still tend to be very, very complex, and it's so very easy to fall afoul of various government agencies. There's always a scare you'll be raided for having done the wrong thing without even knowing it sometimes. Of course, there are crooks as well, but there must be a certain amount of guarantees of consistent policies from the government side. Otherwise, you will not have sustained development and sustained investment in the country. Making a profit is not a crime. Avoiding taxes on that profit is important. I think tax laws must be simplified. Rather than tax goods on, we tax this item and not that item, it must be category wise. People should be, our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had a very interesting remark. I want our industrialists to spend all their innovation on making good and better products. They must not be trying to avoid tax loopholes. That's not their function. Their function is to produce. I think that is a good mantra to bear in mind. Our bureaucrats must not be allowed free rein on everything. There are times when even the power industry is run by an IAS officer. You need technical people in control. We need innovative engineers. And that starts with our schools. Our schools are too hierarchical. Sit there and just listen to what teacher has to say. There must be more interaction at the school level. We must lose our overwhelming respect for authority. Respect for people in positions is important. But accepting everything that they tell you as face value is dangerous. You have to keep open minds. Our unicorns are mostly in the service sector. We've got to encourage people in other innovations and technical side as well. And finally, as a retired IISc faculty and a former IIT student, over dependence on the IITs and IISc to solve industry's problems is misplaced. Academics' primary job is to train engineers to think, not their job to solve industry's problems. Industries must set up their own R&D units to do the same. I think I've got enough on this topic. We need to. Thanks a lot, man.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Before Subramania, you call out the next person, can I just ask you to introduce the people who are there on the panel today? Can you please do that?
I don't, yes, Ashwini ma'am can do that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So,
am I audible?
yes, you are.
Yes, ma'am. Pardon me for the thing. So, as we are going with this question and session, we are having the students across the state. The diversity of this event is the fireside chat is with Sir and with the younger generation of IEEE. Today we have Divyashri from VCT Puttur, me myself Subramanian Nauda from SIT, and we have Ramya from KLIC GIT Belgavi, and we have Chaitra from Canada College, and again we have whole bunch of people from the V community. We have Ashwini ma'am, we had Deepa ma'am, and uh, along with this, we have a community set of people, but the base audience will sit with the students from these colleges. Can we go with next question?
Yes, please. Yes,
Uh,
please.
yeah. Now I would like to call Miss Chaitra from Canada College to come up with a question.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you, sir. COVID 19 has taught us a lot of lessons. What are your views regarding leading and learning from the fundamental experience that we all went through?
First of all, speaking for myself personally, one learns that no matter what you do, health is not totally in your hands. You could follow all the nice practices. You could, like, from youth, have good habits. I learned that first when I had a heart attack 10 years ago. Recovered very fast from it. But before that, I had no reason to suspect that I might be sick. My health has always been good. I never smoked, I never drank, I eat sensibly, I exercise. The pandemic brought that home to us. You did all that and you were sensible not to take unnecessary risks. Don't go into crowded places. Wear the mask. Isolate yourself when necessary. All these things, ultimately, not everything is in your hands. That doesn't mean say you should be stupid. but you just do the best you can in limited circumstances. And for people like us who like to control things, engineers like to do control, accepting that not everything's in your control is the first step to surviving. That's one aspect, the personal aspect, the social aspect. But then there are other things to bear in mind. And let's look at how we handle the pandemic. Now, I will first of all say, let's not be too critical because, as they say, hindsight is 20/20 vision. Everybody's perfect in hindsight. Let's look at our successes and our failures. One success, which was a remarkable success, was developing vaccines fast and carrying out vaccinations quickly. That brought the pandemic under some control reasonably quick. The second thing, it seemed like a long time, but it could have been much worse. Second thing was masking and social distancing. We adopted that early and it worked. Worked really well. It would have been much more disastrous if we hadn't done it. Now we come to other things, problems. The first, of course, was the lockdown. The lockdown was too harsh, too fast, and not planned the way it should have been planned. The first thing that happened was we got a speech one night that from tomorrow morning, all of you are confined to your homes. You cannot come out, you cannot cross your threshold. First thought that occurred to me was, how does the government expect to get food to us? Okay, they announced milk booths will be open, grocery stores will open, and pharmacies will be opened. But how do we get from the food or the medicines from these places to our homes? Obviously, we got to cross our thresholds. And that was the first step. Not telling us what we could realistically do or not realistically not do. That's where it started. I think the second thing that happened, and I think nobody really worked out these details. If they had waited a week, said, okay, we're announcing today that with respect to next Saturday, you are confined to your homes except for visits to the pharmacy or for basic grocery shopping or getting basic supplies or to go to the hospital. We'd accept that. The second thing, at that time, most of the cases were confined to people who traveled abroad or whose family members had traveled abroad and brought the illness back to their homes. In the general public, it was just about to start. That brings you to the next group of people, the migrant workers. Theirs was a tragedy. Suddenly, they had no jobs and no easy way to get home. They were stranded, starving, living in cramped quarters. By the time people realized their plight, some of them were walking home. Many died on the route. Others managed to catch a few trains that were run as special cases that paid a lot of money, more than they could afford. And they spread the disease because by the time they were able to get out, many had contracted it. So they were a major breakdown in our. Some of them were working in the south and had to move to Bihar and UP and some other place, Orissa, and they took the disease with them. Others were confined to Bangalore and they spread their disease to Tumkur, Mysore. We saw it spreading out as the first few days of the immigrants went. Migrants returned home. Another thing where I think we misled the science was in hospitalizing everybody who tested positive, whether they had any symptoms or not. And only serious cases where the hospitals of any help, like when they were running out of, where they couldn't breathe. And there, our handling of the oxygen supply was a terrible. Learning of how bureaucratic control does not work unless applied sensibly. And I think the shutdown was also excessive. Definitely closing the malls, cinema houses, gyms, beauty parlors made eminent sense. But restaurants should have been allowed to run purely on the takeout mode. Grocery stores should not be shut all day, because if you open them for 2 hours, you'll get tremendous crowds for those 2 hours. If you keep them open all day, the same people go there, but spread out over the day, risks are much less. And hospitals stopped taking non-COVID cases. And people like me were worried. What if one of us has another heart attack? First of all, you're not allowed to travel on the roads, so you can't get in. Secondly, if you went to a hospital, they mostly turned you away because there were too many COVID cases clogging them. You were at risk of getting infected. So I think we had too many unnecessary lack of medical attention because it was not available. And I don't think the bureaucrats really thought it out. When you die of COVID, you die of anything else. I think that was our major failure. So what are the overall lessons? Don't take drastic actions without thinking about the consequences. Plan for situations. That takes not only effort, but consultation with the experts in the field. That I think the government fell short. We're in a hurry to act firmly, and sometimes necessary shock tactics work. I think it went a bit too far this time. And special groups like, in our case, migrant labor, are not taken into account. And giving unbridled powers to people, such as petty bureaucrats, junior level police, residents associations, put too much power in the hands of the wrong people. And the pain of the pandemic was more than it should have been. Recovery time also took longer than it should have. Finally, having a single rule across the entire country as with the original case did not work. What was good for certain areas of the country was not necessarily so good for other areas of the country. What was good for the cities was not good for the villages. So I think next time there's an emergency, hopefully you don't have something like this again in our lifetimes, or in your young guys' lifetimes. But next time something happens that's an emergency, I think more judgment should be shown overall. That's all I have to say. I've got it long enough on this.
No, sir. No. To be honest, this answer is one of the most iconic answer of this session. When we had pandemic, when we were running out of time, people used to tell, I cannot do this, I don't have time, and we got a lot of time altogether. Now, what's going to happen? It was beautifully answered by you. We're very thankful for this answer. I would request Veena Desai ma'am to ask the question now.
Thank you, Subramania. This is Veena Desai. I'm from KLS GIT. At the risk of not sounding it like a vote of thanks, I just want briefly to tell you about the major takeaways that I have had from your talk, though it's not still complete. I loved this phrase which you mentioned, and it is very close to what I also believe in. That is making yourself redundant, and thereby and be happy at making yourself redundant.
Yes.
And this is like saying what do you call? Give the new order. I mean, old order changeth, making place for new. So that is really very wonderful. The second thing was about interdependence. Yes, independence is very good, but I strongly believe in what you mentioned about interdependence. Sir, hats off to you for that. The third thing that I also believe in, and I would like to propagate and make my students also understand, is this overwhelming respect for authority. I mean, this has to somehow be diluted at all levels of hierarchy, and hopefully the industry culture which is there would help the academicians to dilute this at a certain level. So these are basically my takeaways. I do have one question for you though, sir, and that is the lot of things which are involved with policy making, as you have mentioned before. both in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat or with the COVID cases. Now, what should be the role of professional societies in policy making with the government?
I think when it comes to industry problems, we are the best to talk about, because competitive Indian industry is one. But the other side of it is us as a professional body, because we can talk not about the bottlenecks that the industries face, but the challenges. And there, I think, because the government normally, when they have a problem, they put together a committee of IIT and IISc professors. And we only see one side of it, because we, as an organization, we have not only professionals from academia, we have professionals from industry across all levels. Like we have from national research laboratories, we have from manufacturing industries, we have from R&D units in the various companies. And this mix can tell the government what is feasible in various fields. And I think that type of consultation will serve us in good stead. Take an example. If they want to know about telecom policy, now we have in every institution, academic institution, also in all the electronics, the communication industry, experts on the various protocols, the various generations of the various technologies, and they can tell the government what is feasible. Certainly, if you look at another area close to me, and that is the power industry, some of the statements we hear are ridiculous. For instance, we've got all the sunlight, so therefore we have no problems with our power. Oh yeah, provided sunlight is 24 hours a day, and the wind power is there for 24 hours of the day and 365 days of the year. Yes, but we can't store renewables energy. We require other things as well. We require the other generation. All these issues are swept under the carpet by people who don't really know. And I think consulting the local industry bodies and consulting professional bodies will go a long way in having more scientific approaches to solving our problem. I think there are longer answers, but I think that's all we can do.
Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Veena ma'am. I mean, the whole point of conducting this event was to connect with people and to let know how things are going on. But you beautifully put the points, and obviously that question was very relevant to the time. Well, thank you, sir. That was an on-point answer. Now we have the last question of this session, again from Rashmi. Over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Subramanya. So I would like to know what is your opinion or what is your advice for the young professionals and
Okay.
youth of the country?
Okay, let's start with the youth first. The youth who have yet to choose their careers need to ask questions that are different from the questions their parents pose. Typically, father or mother says, what will give my child a good life from the point of view of earning a comfortable living? And secondly, what has status in society? And in most cases, medicine gives you status, but the gestation time is long. So the obvious answer is engineering. Law is there, but law is risky because not many do well. So half our engineering students are there not because they're convinced they like to be engineers. They haven't even thought about it. Mommy and daddy said that's a good idea. Hey, mommy and daddy have lived their lives, or they're living their lives at a different level. You are starting your life. You better choose what you like. That's my first thought. You guys, for better or for worse, have gotten to engineering. That's why you're here. Typically electrical group. But you have the same question when you're doing your project. Which will get me the scholarship in the US, typically? Or which IIT will want to guide me in? Or which will give me the best jobs in industry? I think that's the wrong question to ask. Best meaning the highest paid job. Sometimes jobs are high paid because they're not nice jobs to do. Bear that in mind. My answer is pick a job that interests you. in engineering, you ask yourself, electrical or computer science, electronics, do you like theoretical work? Some of us do. I personally like it. That's why I became an academic. Do you like software? Do you like hardware? I'm not asking which you're best at, how to get the most marks in, but what do you like? And through your career, always follow that. If you find you like none of these things, maybe you got into engineering by mistake, bail out and go into management. I mean, I have nothing against management, but that'll give you money and you will not do the work you don't like. The next thing is, once you've done that, I've got advice which goes against what many of my colleagues tend to say. Spend more hours in the lab. Yes, spend good hours in the lab. But you have a life outside the lab. When you're young and even when you're older, really when you've got a family around, some of you are too young to think of that, but when you are a little older, don't let your work get in the way of your life. Sure, there are days you'll work late. There are weekends you'll work to meet a deadline. I used to get a shock when I turned up on Saturday afternoon to my office. Didn't expect to see you. But that should be rare. Most of the time, you do your day's work. Occasionally, you push hard. But on an average, you spend time with hobbies, time with your family. When you're married, time for your marriage. Hobbies. If you are religious minded, go to church or temple or mosque, whatever. Attend music concerts if you like it. If you're a sports fan, go to attend events. Don't let it get in the way of your work, but keep them apart. That's another thing. Now, going within a career. Early in your career, you decide whether you want to be a management type or you want to be a technical type. Take a choice. You want to be a management type, get an MBA and develop those interpersonal skills, those abilities to handle things at the business level. It's important. Want to be technical, do remember you require communication skills, not only if you're teaching, but even in industry. You need to be able to work with people. And bear in mind, no matter how much you dislike your administrative work, as you get senior, you have to carry more of it. I know daughter learned that way. She was purely technical. But gradually, she had to be pulled a little towards. I, as an academic, get irritated when somebody says, hey, I don't want to take a turn being chairman or chairperson because I don't like it. Hey, when somebody asks you to do a job, and in fact, some jobs are compulsory. If I'm a teacher, an academic, my chairman asks me to teach a course. I know it's within my ability, I teach it. Don't say, I don't like this. So when I'm asked something, my questions are, is it a fair request? And do I have any reason to refuse it because I have some other commitment that I on the way? I do not ask, say, is it worth me doing it? Will it get me ahead in my career? What I never ask is, do I like the person asking me to do it? I'm not doing it as a favor. I'm doing it because I think it's worth doing. Or the society needs it, or my job needs it. I do it. I don't even ask, am I capable of doing it? If the person asks me to do it, I presume he thinks I can do it. Therefore, I should do it. And more than that, I never ask what's in it for me. Because I've learned from experience, you're asked to do a job and it turns out to be a growth, opportunity to grow. Like I sometimes was asked when I was in service, come and give a talk on a topic. That might not be exactly my topic, but okay, if it's close enough, I'll go and give it. Sometimes they'll just give me a memento, and they just say thanks. Good enough. Sometimes the talk grew into a course that I taught. Or I went to an industry and I gave the same talk with modifications. I was paid a huge amount of money for it. I didn't look for that. I wasn't asking for anything. You take on a student working in one area, he leads you into a topic which you end up working on for the next 5 years. You find it very rewarding. So never ask, what will I get out of it? Guaranteed you do it well, get lots out of it, get all sorts of things. So my belief is always do a job because it's worth doing. You do the best you can in it. lots of good things come to you. The last thing I want to say is, do not be afraid of failure. I'm not saying you want to fall flat on your face. I'm saying, yes, have a plan B so that you can bail out if things go wrong, so that it's not a total disaster. But if you're scared to fail, you'll never do anything worthwhile. So, okay, I frankly, I very rarely have had a failure in my life. Completely. When you have make a mistake, don't be afraid to say, look, I made a mistake. I don't know. Admit it. Your learning experiences. You're prepared to admit you're wrong. You're prepared to admit you don't know. Nothing bad will happen to you. Mistakes take place, but no disasters. And that's you can't ask for more than that in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rashmi, and so it was a great session altogether. We are all close to set up the event. The evening was to be honest, in cringy words, it's the blast event of the whole engineering time we are having. Because in engineering, no, we used to do all this, conversations and everything. But when it officially happens with a kind of family setup, that makes it more interesting, and it was an amazing evening for all of us. So I would request everyone here to turn on their camera so we can have a group pic. No,
Okay.
it's a really memorable time. We all need to keep this memory alive. So I request everyone to turn on the camera. Don't shy. We are a very small bunch of community here. We'll definitely make a photo frame. No issues. Uh, Ashwinyaka, can you take the screenshots?
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Let me just go to the grid view. I'm not able to see that though. 1 minute, please.
Yeah. Thanks. We're having lots of smiley faces here.
I'm not
Thanks for
seeing the
everyone.
grid view. You'll have to stop sharing, Subramania.
1 second. Now?
Yeah, right. Yes. One minute, please.
I think we can have a sign, right? It's we all together. Are we good to go?
Just 1 minute more, please. Yes.
By the time, do anyone want to share their experience on the session? We have Satvika, we have many others on the board. Cool.
Hello,
Uh,
Subramania. Am I audible?
yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Satvika, and I'm the current Y ambassador from IEEE SITSB. And thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Out there
Thank
for
you,
that. So
Satvik.
thank you so much, sir.
Oh,
Thanks.
cool. Thank you, Satvika. So we are at the end of the whole session. I request Divyashri to give vote of thanks for all the dignitaries and the panelists of the session.
Hello, everyone. I'm Divyashri S. I'm the student chair of VCT Puttur student branch from Mangalore subsection. And it takes a pleasure in proposing the vote of thanks for this wonderful session that we had now. I wish to place on record, on behalf of the organizers of this talk, my humble thanks to today's wonderful speaker, Professor Lawrence Jenkins, Chair, Life Member, Affinity Group Bangalore Section, and former two-time Chair IEEE Bangalore Section, and the Professor at IASC. Thank you so much for making time for us today despite your schedule and inspiring us with your insights, sir.
Glad to do it.
Activity 1. Activities like talks come alive only when there is an interaction. Hence, I wish to thank the audience for their spirit along the spirit of IEEE and learning. Our gratitude to IEEE Bangalore section, and more importantly, the driving force behind its activities, Chairperson of IEEE section, Dr. P. Deepa Shenoy. Thank you, Madam, for encouraging such activities with such humanitarian flavor. Thanks to Chair EMBS and EAC Bangalore section, Dr. Sriram, and the Chair WI Bangalore section, Dr. Kumudini Ravindra, and the WI team for their continued support. And thank you, Professor Ashwini, Vice Chair, WI Bangalore section, and the Educational Activity Committee and Region 10 Professional Activity Committee member for your continuous guidance. Thanks to all the volunteers, Secretary Bangalore section, Mr. Chingappa, and the SCT and the WI volunteer team, and Mr. Subramanya Navada. Before I sign out, I wish to recommend you that the EAS and the WI team look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening at 3 p.m. This is Divyashri, and until next time, bye and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Divyashri. As I said, the Engineering Day celebration is not going to end just today. We are having another wonderful session tomorrow. The topic itself is something very interesting to attend for. So we are awaiting for all your presence tomorrow. And till that time, take care. Thank you all.
Many thanks, for bearing with the tardiness. We couldn't start on time. So many thanks again.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Thank you.